Takoda Collins, a young boy who had been abused for years before his death, was raped, tortured, and murdered. He was also made to eat his own feces and was forced to drink lots of water or be held underwater as part of his torture. Truly heartbreaking. What could have prompted such heinous treatment of a 10-year-old boy? Continue watching to find out. According to the Dayton Daily News, Takoda died from a number of things, such as blunt force trauma, being submerged in water, oxygen deprivation caused by pressure, unbearable pain, and constant torture. Two women, Heinz and Ebert, stood by as Takoda was repeatedly punched in the stomach until they heard him cry and say no more. Just as he constantly begged his abuser to stop, he was murdered after enduring a brutal beating and rape. What a tragic way to depart from this world, and especially as a young child. Who do you think is the primary abuser of this innocent child? What relationship do the women Heinz and Ebert have with the abuser? Did Takoda receive adequate protection from child welfare workers before he passed away? Well, if you're curious to get the answers to all these questions, then relax and keep watching as we share with you this heartbreaking, touching, horrible, and suspenseful crime story. But before we begin, please remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can be the first to know when intriguing stories like this are released. With that, let's get started. Sadly, Takoda Collins, who was killed in December 2019, was subjected to such torture by his own father, Almutahan McLean, in Ohio. McLean tortured his son in every way imaginable, including locking him naked in the attic. McLean also verbally and physically abused his son on a regular basis. Takoda's mother, Robin Collins, lost custody of him in 2013 because she was fighting drug addiction. Sadly, this left Takoda at the mercy of his cruel father. Takoda's father, McLean, aged 32, began terrorizing his son in 2015 when Takoda was only in first grade. The abuse would last until Takoda's death. McLean was in a relationship with Amanda Heinz, 30, who lived with him at the time. Heinz's sister, Jennifer Ebert, also lived with them, and they both witnessed McLean's abuse of his own son. Neither of the women lifted a finger to assist the child when he was being tortured. Instead, they made Takoda's father torture and abuse him over and over again while they stood by and watched him suffer. During the investigation, it was discovered that Takoda was living in a house of horrors built by his father with the help of Heinz and Ebert. They did nothing except encourage and promote McLean's torture of the child. According to court records, one of Takoda's main tortures was being forced to stand bent over and cross-legged for long periods of time and receive a severe beating from his father if he stopped. In May 2018, however, an employee of Takoda's school at Dayton Public School called 911 and reported McLean's abuse of Takoda Collins to the Montgomery County Jobs and Family Services. The call was made because McLean went so far as to withdraw his son from school on the grounds that he was ill. In the paperwork, which he filed in late July 2019, McLean had Takoda removed from school and homeschooled. Montgomery County Jobs and Family Services then requested that officers visit McLean's home to perform a welfare check to see how he was doing, but they were never able to do so because, according to the report, they left Takoda Collins' home when no one answered the door. The staff at Takoda's school claimed they had made numerous calls to children's services before Takoda's father eventually removed him from the school. Following reports of abuse, child services failed to remove Takoda from the home of his father. It was only after Takoda was withdrawn from school that he faced real maltreatment. He was isolated from others, including friends and family, and was tortured with an electric dog collar after being locked up in the attic. Takoda's grandmother, Kelly Sandoval, even tried several times to gain custody of the boy, but was denied because she was already raising other children in her family. For 10-year-old Takoda, life became a living hell. On December 13, 2019, Collins was reported to be unresponsive, and ambulance crews were called to McLean's Kensington Street home. McLean was said to have repeatedly punched Takoda in the stomach the night before his death, and Heinous and Ebert witnessed it all. After the beating, Takoda was in excruciating pain until dawn. The child was shaky the next morning as he attempted to make his way downstairs from the filthy attic where he had been forced to sleep. Takoda fell several times while attempting to descend the stairs, which only enraged his father, who used his elbow to hit Takoda hard in the back and ordered him back upstairs for punishment because he didn't move quickly enough. Takoda was used to serving a certain type of punishment whenever he didn't adhere to instructions quickly enough, and that was to bend over for up to 20 hours a day. So he immediately assumed his customary punishment pose as he returned upstairs. The punishment became extremely severe over time. Takoda was made to lie on his stomach while McLean forced himself to stand on his back and push all of his weight downward, even reaching for the ceiling to do so, crushing the 10-year-old boy's frail body. To top it off, McLean made Takoda strike the same punishment pose again while he went downstairs to get a bottle of hot sauce to slather on his buttocks. Still not satisfied, McLean grabbed his child by the ears and dragged him down the stairs, tossing him about. He took Takoda with him into the bathroom and told him to scrub his shorts. At the same time, McLean instructed his son to move faster, but Takoda couldn't do it because he was weak, and so he was submerged to drown. Ebert sat in the living room and observed all of the abuse. She heard Takoda struggling for breath, but she did nothing to help. And to make matters worse, McLean raped his son using a broken chair leg. When the boy eventually lost consciousness and stopped breathing, his father called 911 and reported that his son was having trouble breathing. When the authorities arrived, he was rushed to Dayton Children's Hospital, where he would later pass away. Authorities launched an investigation as soon as Takoda passed away, and they were unable to uncover that McLean had tortured his own son for years. According to a lawyer who spoke to the media, Takoda would still be alive today if Children's Services had done its job. Even though the agency is making changes, they still need to answer for Takoda's passing. Takoda's mother was absolutely devastated by the news. She said, "I wish I had just gone down there and kidnapped him, to be honest. I really wish I had just gone and got him." After 10-year-old Takoda Collins passed away, his family's attorney also asserted that children's service providers did not do enough to keep him safe. What do you think happened to McLean and his cronies after all this evil was perpetrated against this defenseless child? Keep watching to find out more. McLean, Heinous, and Ebert all admitted to manslaughter, rape, and torture following the investigation. McLean was sentenced by an Ohio judge to 51 years to life in prison. The minimum sentences for the two women were 22 and 8 years respectively. Do you consider these penalties to be adequate? Takoda's grandmother, for one, didn't agree. She was shocked at the sentence given to the boy's father, which was just 51 years of imprisonment. She went on to say that Takoda's death gradually killed her, noting that everyone had failed him in life, and now he'd been failed in death as well. She expressed surprise at what had happened in the courtroom, but the court assured her that the sentence was proper and that McLean would be 83 years old by the time he would be even eligible for parole in the year 2072. Sandoval concluded by saying that she hopes Takoda's death will cause changes in the state's child protective services and abuse investigations in order to make sure that what happened to her grandchild never happens again. After watching this heartbreaking video, do you think child services failed in Takoda Collins' case? What kind of punishment do you think is appropriate for such an awful crime? Have you ever witnessed child abuse like this? Please let us know what you think by leaving your opinion in the comments section. Please remember to like and share this video so that other true crime fans can watch it. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.